to the Knitting Expat Podcast. My name is Mina and I'll be your host today. Welcome, and today this is going to be episode 108. So thank you for joining me. If you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back every week, or every other week I guess now. And if you are a new viewer, thank you so much for checking me out. I hope you enjoy what you see, and if you do, feel free to hit subscribe if you want to get notified and just have the episodes come up in your subscription feed. I don't say that very often. I just assume if people want to subscribe they will, but no pressure, you don't have to if you don't want to. Right, so today is actually Thursday the 24th of August. I was originally planning to record tomorrow, but due to certain things lining up in certain ways, I'll talk more about that later. Tomorrow's just not going to work out. So today, Layla is now down for a nap, so fingers crossed I'll have 1.5 to 2 hours to record today. I quickly threw down some lunch while she was still awake so I could do this without worrying about trying to eat at the same time. Okay, so this will probably actually not go up on YouTube until tomorrow anyway, which is Friday 25th, which is when I was originally planning on recording and uploading, so it'll be the same for you guys. So yeah, I'm just trying, so where you can find me online. I'm a bit rusty at this. It's been about a month since I've recorded an actual sit-down podcast. The last episode I uploaded was actually more of a vlog style, so a lot more informal than this one. So places you can find me online, you can find me on Instagram as Knitting Expat. I'm on Ravelry as Mina Phillip. We have a podcast group for the podcast, obviously, called Knitting Expat Podcast, which you can find in the groups tab on Ravelry, and you can find my Ravelry shop where I sell my designs as Knitting Expat Designs. And where else? I have an email address, knittingexpat@gmail.com. That should be in all of the episode threads for each episode as well. What else? I think those are the main things. I have everything linked. Oh, show notes. Show notes for this and all previous episodes can be found at knittingexpat.wordpress.com. Everything is linked down below this video on YouTube. There's also episode threads for each episode that I upload to you on Ravelry. So links are there as well as on the show notes themselves. So there are 3 places where you can find links to everything, basically. I don't tend to link the projects that I'm working on, mostly because most of the projects I'm working on are my own designs that haven't been published yet, so there's not really much to link to. And the ones that are published, you could just search for on Ravelry. The names will be in the pattern name will be in the show notes if there isn't already published pattern, so you can just copy and paste that into the search function on Ravelry. It's nice and easy. But I do include all the information as much as I can, like needle sizes, yarn I've used, any modifications. Usually I'll make some sort of note of it on the show notes. My pattern pages are not up to date. I think the last time I updated them was June of last year, so it got to a point where I was like, you know what, I'm never going to be able to keep up with this, and I don't enjoy the format of uploading and maintaining project pages on Ravelry. I know some people really enjoy it, but for me, it doesn't suit me. It doesn't suit how I work. So if you do have any questions about any of the projects and you can't find the information in the podcast or in the show notes, then please by all means send me a message. Okay, and I have quite a few things to go over, so it's going to be a bit of a chatty beginning. I've got quite a few announcements and some things that I'm planning, pattern giveaways to announce, and some other things that I'm planning design wise and stuff that will affect you guys, I guess. So that will be the beginning. If you really aren't interested in any of that and you don't want to listen to it, then you can skip ahead. I was going to say I will put a timestamp on the screen here, but hopefully I'll remember to do that. If not, just skip ahead to when the knitting starts. So I will have probably included some sort of vlog style footage at the beginning before the episode began. I'll include I can't remember how much footage I've taken over the last couple of weeks. It's not going to be like a full vlog, it's just like little snippets here and there, so I'll have a little bit at the beginning at least, and if there's anything else I'll have it at the end of the episode. And I asked last time about how people felt about having alternating vlog style episodes and sit down episodes like this one, and most people seem to be quite happy with the idea of alternating between them. I had a couple of negative comments about doing the vlog style one and things like that, so I mean, don't like it, don't watch it. Like really, I don't understand. I don't understand the need to be like negative or rude about it. I mean, by all means tell me you prefer one version over another, but you don't need to be rude about it. Anyway, so yeah, I will be alternating between them. I will aim to sort of maintain the current schedule I have for sit down episodes and doing it try to do that twice a month. And then I think on the alternate weeks where I'm not recording, I'll try and do more vlog style for recording. And I'm not going to do 2 weeks of vlogs in like one chunk, just because that was quite a lot of footage to go through, and it was quite long at the end of it as well. So I can't imagine how long it was for you guys. I think maybe if it was like half the amount of time, then the actual vlog would be half the amount of time. So it should be fine. And then editing it won't be quite so daunting either. At least that's kind of the aim. There may be, I mean, there's going to be quite a lot of stuff coming up over the next few weeks. Basically, between now and Rhinebeck, things are going to be a bit crazy. We've got a lot going on. Again, I'll get into that more at the end of the episode, but it'll probably mean I'll have more vlog style videos coming out over the next couple of months than sit down videos. That's just the nature of how things are going to work out. We're going to be very busy, there's going to be stuff going on, and we're going to have visitors here, so it may not always be possible for me to sit down for a couple of hours and record. There again, I might find that it is possible, but I'm not going to be able to promise anything now. So you can expect most of September and October to have vlogs, hopefully, rather than full-on sit-down episodes. But what I'll do, and I tried to do this in the vlog that I did put up, is I tried to have like periods of time during the week where I just sat down and went over what was happening with my knitting, sort of like trying to recap it, and I recapped right at the end as well. So hopefully that was a good way to sort of round it out for you guys. I think what I will do as well is I'm not going to call the vlogs episodes. I'm not going to sort of mix them up. The sit down videos are going to be the podcast episodes, and the vlogs are just going to be numbered separately, so there's no real confusion between the two. Because also I don't think I'm going to be able to do show notes for the vlogs every single time. I might have like truncated show notes, just like really quick notes in the episode threads, I mean, I guess vlog threads that I put up on the group, but I'm not going to have separate show notes on the show notes blog, the WordPress website. So I hope that makes sense. And obviously if there's anything in the vlogs that you want to know more about, or something you have a question about, you can always let me know. So there's that. I have a couple of other announcements to make. Obviously we have some coupon codes. There is a coupon code thread in the group where you can check for all current active coupons. I do occasionally get messages about people wanting to offer coupon codes for the podcast, which is great, thank you so much. But honestly, I struggle to keep track of stuff like that, so that's why I created the thread in the group. So if you do want to offer a coupon to the podcast, please make sure you pop on over and include that in the thread there. Only sending me a message, I'm more than likely going to forget, so I'm not going to remember to announce it on the podcast. So please make sure you put it in that thread. We have a bunch of patterns to give away. I've been so kindly gifted over the last month or so several patterns, and copies have been donated for the podcast to be given away as well. And I feel really bad that I haven't done this yet. I haven't announced them yet. I did actually have this announced in the vlog that I recorded, but it happens, the whole segment that I recorded going through the patterns, explaining them all of that, I had my hand over the mic of the camera because I was hand holding the camera, so nothing got recorded, so you couldn't hear anything. So I decided not to include the footage, and I'm just going to do it now. So we have five different patterns to give away. There is the olive Martinis shawl, designed by the lovely Gabby of Once Upon a Corgi. This is her very first pattern, so really congratulations to you, Gabby. I believe it's like a once again wonder type design for a shawl. It's really lovely, sort of simple texture to it, which sounds like it would be a really fun knit. We also have the Beach Hut socks, which was designed by Zoe, and these are really fun socks with just a little touch of colour work to them, nothing too complicated or too scary, just a little bit of colour work. And these socks are designed by the colourful beach huts that you see by the seaside in the UK, and she has some inspiration photos on the pattern page as well. Then we have the Who Wears the Crown shawl, which is designed by Kim, and I think this one is a really lovely sort of crescent shawl, and the I guess the patterning detail is you use like contrasting, I assume they're mini skein. It was a while since I looked at these patterns. I think they're mini skeins that you use as for the alternating, for the patterning rows. If you see the pictures, you'll know what I mean. I will have all of these linked in the giveaway thread, just because figuring out how to insert photos is probably just one extra step too far for me right now. But thank you so much for that donation, Kim. Again, it's a really beautiful looking shawl. And the next one, number 4, is also another shawl. It's the lovely Oracle shawl by the wonderful Kristen of the Yarngasm podcast and Wool and Vine Yarns. I'm sure most of you have heard about this one by now, but Kristen has also kindly donated a copy to the podcast, so that will be included in this lovely giveaway. And finally, we have the Rhinebeck is Calling socks by Kay Litton, who is the Crazy Sock Lady, and she has the Crazy Sock Lady podcast. So she's designed a pair of socks for to celebrate, I guess, her first trip to Rhinebeck. I believe this is her first trip to Rhinebeck this year. So so congratulations to Kay on the pattern release, and to everyone else. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have one giveaway thread, because I think it would just be a little bit mental to have 5 at the same time. I'm going to have one giveaway thread in the group where I'll have a prompt up along the lines of, tell me something nice that has happened to you this summer. And then I'll also ask, if you're only a sock knitter or you're only a shawl knitter and you don't knit socks or vice versa, then please let me know in your response. That way, if I pull your name for a prize, then for one of the patterns, if you're only a sock knitter, I'll give you one of the sock patterns rather than a shawl pattern, if you're never going to knit it, because I really want people to get these patterns who want to knit them and will knit them. So I think that's the only sort of extra thing I'm going to put. If you knit both socks and shawls and you don't mind which type of pattern you get, then but you don't have to say anything. But if you prefer one type over the other, then please do let me know in your comment. That will be in the thread anyway. Okay, I'm just gonna pause here really quickly and go grab something, and I'll be back. So I have a few other pattern announcements related to my designs to announce right now. So we have the Mystery Knit Along, the Road to Rhinebeck Mystery Knit Along, which is going to be kicking off on the 2nd of September, so very, very soon, next weekend. And so that's kicking off very soon. You have until the 2nd of September to purchase the pattern at the introductory price of, I believe it's $4, and then it will go up to $5 once the knit along starts. So if you want to join in, make sure you jump on board now. And yeah. And then the New York Sock Club is coming to a close very, very soon. 1st of September, the final pattern will be released. And as with the Mystery Knit Along, the cost of the club is going to go up to full price on the 1st of September once the final pattern is released. And I believe the full cost of the club is going to be $19. So I think this is the last week you're going to have to be able to get the full collection at the discounted price, $17 I believe it is. So if you want to hop in on that one, make sure you jump on and get that straight away. Otherwise, I don't think that club's going to be discounted again in the future. So this is your opportunity. And then the monthly knit alongs for that are going to run until the end of September. And then at the end of November, I'm going to be drawing prizes again from the monthly threads, but I'm not going to draw monthly in October in October. I'm just going to wait until the end of November when all the knit alongs end for the New York Sock Club, and I will draw the grand prize winners and the last of the monthly winners as well. And then from the beginning of December, all of the patterns from the Sock Club are going to be available for individual purchase in my Ravelry shop. So there's that. I hope you guys are excited. I am so excited for the final pattern to come out. It's been so much fun to see you guys knitting along and seeing all the lovely colours and yarns you've used, and it's been so much fun. And I have more news about that in a bit. And finally, the last pattern that I've released since the last time I spoke to you guys properly is the Colour Blender wrap and scarf or shawl that I've designed, and it's now out in the world. So this is the wrap or shawl version that I knit out of Primrose Yarn Company. I believe I did show this on the last sit down podcast that I did as well, but I wanted to show it again now really quickly. This is the one that's out. It is huge, it is warm, you can wear it like a traditional shawl, which, to be honest, I think if you just added a button or a shawl pin at the front here, you could almost wear it like a cardigan. Like you could quite easily wear this as a cardigan. It's really warm and snuggly, and you can also just scrunch it up. Is that even a word? Scrunch it up around your neck. And so this is the 7 skein size that's in the pattern. I believe the one in the pattern, I've altered it ever so slightly, just so you use up a little bit more of your yarn than I did in this version. So the idea of the shawl of this pattern was to use approximately 80% or 80 grams of a skein of fingering weight yarn of each colour. The first and last colours you use slightly less, just because of the nature of the way the pattern has worked. But the idea there was to allow for differences in gauge, because I know gauge can make a big difference in the amount of yardage you use. But also, you know, if you have a skein of yarn that's not quite 100 grams, or you've used a bit of it for contrasting heels and toes or for another project, then you know you don't have to have a full 100 grams to do this pattern. And if you do have a full 100 grams, then you have enough leftovers that you can either do another sort of scrappy project with all the yarns together, or like a hat or a cowl or something else, or you can use the leftover yarn for like heels and toes on socks or whatever else you want, scrappy projects in general. So yeah, it was to allow a little bit of flexibility there in terms of the amount of yarn you use. There is a 4, 5, 6 and 7 skein version in the pattern. The 4 and 5 skein versions are scarves, and the 6 and 7 skein versions are shawls. So that's that. It is pretty huge. It is longer than my wingspan, which is probably longer than you need it. And the scarf version is really long as well, which is nice to wrap up in. So that's it for sort of pattern releases and like design information for you guys for now. Having said that, I've been asked a few times by people over the last few months, I guess, since the sock club started, whether or not I was going to be doing it again next year. And I asked in the podcast, in the vlog last time, whether or not you guys would be interested in another sock club next year. And it seemed, the response was all yes. Everyone I got a response from was very positive about it and very interested. So I've started reaching out to people about yarn for patterns and stuff like that, and I've sort of come up with an outline of the patterns that I have in mind for it. So I believe it's going to be on the cards. I don't think it's going to be New York themed as it was this year. I'm not sure what the theme is going to be yet. I kind of need to sit down, review the designs and sort of the design ideas, and kind of see where the inspiration takes me, I guess. I have a couple of ideas, but I don't know if it's going to have like an overarching theme to it all, or if it's going to be like just whatever is inspiring me for each pattern, what to name it and stuff like that. If it's just going to be general. I haven't decided on that yet, but I do have a few of the details I figured out. This is based on some of the informal feedback, I guess, I've been getting from the club, things that I've noticed people mentioning in the comments on the club, and things like that. So this is kind of like just slightly changing the format a little bit. So rather than having one big club for the whole year, like a 12-month club for next year for patterns, I'm going to do 2 6-month clubs. They're going to be running at the same time, and so they'll be released on alternating months. So club 1 is going to be released like the patterns will be released like January, March, May, like every other month throughout the year. And then the second club will start in February and alternate again, so you get February, April, June alternating every month until the end of the year. That way, and so one club is going to be aimed at more beginner level, which is going to be think patterns along the lines of Beyond Vanilla Part 1, or like the sock club this year, sort of very simple, easy to do patterns, mostly sort of knit pearl textures, maybe a few like knit togethers, stuff like that. Nothing complicated, very beginner stuff for sock knitting, in terms, you know, if you've only ever knit vanilla socks before, or very simple, if you've done things like the sock patterns in my Beyond Vanilla Part 1 or Part 2 collection, this will be a breeze, this will be totally fine for you. And it's sort of like a good next step up, I guess, from doing very basic beginner level socks. The second club is going to be aimed at more intermediate advanced sock knitters who want something a little bit more challenging, something a little bit more thought-provoking, or just something a little bit more, I guess. That club's going to have more things more techniques, I guess, more techniques that you may have not come across before in sock knitting. Some of you may have already come across most of them before, but it's just to provide something a little bit more, I guess, thought-provoking, more interesting, more that requires more attention, I guess, with your knitting. Again, they're going to be very easy patterns. They're not going to be complicated. There's no intarsia. There's nothing like crazy complicated. Not that intarsia is crazy complicated, but there's nothing ridiculously daunting or anything about them. I genuinely believe that, even at least for the designs that I've picked out so far, the ideas I've got, I still feel like a confident beginner, I guess I should put it. A confident, adventurous beginner would be more than capable of handling them. If you can follow a pattern, you could probably do any of the socks in either club. I've just split it up so that, if someone really doesn't want to deal with something a bit more complicated, they can just stick to the beginner one, or if someone wants something a little bit more interesting, then they can go for the second one. Obviously you can also go for both if you really wanted to. There's absolutely nothing against that, but the idea behind doing them separately and alternating them is, some people need more than a month to knit a pair of socks, and that's a lot of feedback I've been getting. Again, I said informally, I haven't been asking for feedback, this is just what I've been reading in the chatter threads. Some people say, didn't have enough time to finish the pair of socks for this month, and they finished it the following month, which is totally fine. Like, you don't have to finish it within the month. But I thought if the patterns are released every other month, then everyone has 2 months to finish each pattern that's released for the club. And for the beginners, I figured that was good because some beginners aren't, they don't necessarily have enough. They don't have the speed yet for knitting socks, or you might not have enough time in your day or in your month or whatever to knit finish a pair of socks in a month. You have other projects on the needles, etc., etc. And then for the more advanced patterns, more so intermediate patterns, people knitting those, again, you may need more than a month to finish them, not because necessarily you're a slow knitter, or you might be a slow knitter, but also because they might be more thought-provoking, they might require more, not thought-provoking, that's the wrong word, they might require more attention, and they're not as mindless, let's say. They'll still be pretty easy to knit, don't get me wrong, but you might need to look at the pattern, or you might need to, they might not be as easily memorizable, like I said, they might need more thought to knit them. So for that reason, if it's every other month, again, it gives those people more time to complete the pairs of the socks. And then if you're a really speedy knitter and you really want to knit all the socks, then of course you could take part in both clubs and knit a pair of socks each month, or however you like to do them. And you don't even have to knit all the socks if you don't want to. If there's one that comes along that doesn't really take your fancy, then you can always skip that month. There is absolutely no rules that says you can't pick and choose which months you knit and don't knit. But like with this year's club, the patterns are going to be exclusive to the club until the end of next year, until the clubs are over, which will be the end of next year. And then in January 2019, it will be, all the patterns will be released for individual sale as well. So I believe that was everything I wanted to say about that. Yeah, so that's everything I have figured out right now in terms of logistics and how it's going to work. I will announce more information about details, things regarding pricing and when the clubs will go up for pre-sale and things like that, as time goes on, as I've gotten things more figured out. Okay, so that's all the rambling over. I think that's been like, what, close to 20 minutes now. Hopefully you're not all bored out of your minds, and I will get going with the actual knitting content now. Okay, so first up we have finished objects, or foes, and I have a few things to show you today. This finished pair of socks are socks for Perry. If you remember in the vlog, I mentioned that I wanted to get 2 pairs of socks finished for him for his birthday, and there we go, I got the socks finished. And these ones are, the yarn is Primrose Yarn Company in the Cosmic Helix base, which is 100% superwash merino, in the Emerald Midnight Potluck, so I think it's like a one of a kind. I'm not sure if it's going to show up or not. There you can see I did sort of like a spiraling garter pattern around the sock, and then on the foot I just did on the top. And you'll notice I've done the sirens. Okay, sorry about that. And yeah, so the spiraling's on the front and the back of the leg, which isn't something I typically do. I don't typically pattern on both sides, but it was such a simple pattern, I just thought, you know what, it actually probably it will look good having it going both sides, and they both spiral the same way. I didn't do the socks differently. And I have another pair of socks I already finished for him a while ago. So these two will be his birthday present, and his birthday is next week. And I also picked up a pair of shoes for him yesterday. Actually, I went out with Layla yesterday and we picked up a pair of shoes for him. So that'll be his birthday present from me. And I still need to find, Layla still needs to go shopping to find her dad a present. So we will have to see what ends up happening there. So that's that finished object. And I knit these actually on 2.5mm needles on, I believe I only did 56 stitches. Yes, I think so. Because I went up a needle size, so I went down in stitch count so it wouldn't be too loose on his foot. This is quite a thick, quite a plump base, so it doesn't really need, when I knit this base on a tighter gauge, it starts to hurt my hands. So I find going up a needle size actually helps, and the gauge is still pretty good. I really like the gauge. So that's that. Then my next finished object is really exciting. I've shared pictures of Layla wearing this, but this is a new design. This is going to be called the Mix and Match Baby/Child Sweater. And for this version, this was just a trial version to just test out the numbers and a couple of other design features I wanted to include. So this one is done in plain stockinette, and the yarn I've used is Primrose Yarn Company in the, what's written now, the Sophia, her MCN base. It's a fingering weight yarn that I've held double, and I knit this on 4.5mm needles, US 7s. So as you can see, it's a raglan sweater. And the thing that's a bit different about this one is it's got a high neckline at the back, so you've got a definitive front and back to this sweater, and the same on the bottom hem. So the ribbing at the back is deeper than the ribbing at the front. And the reason why I did the shaping in the ribbing rather than in the actual stockinette is because the other version of this design is textured, and I showed this one on the podcast. This was really a trial one. You saw how on the vlog, I mean, and you saw how this one went wrong in terms of my numbers and gauge and stuff. So because of this texture pattern that's going to be in the other version, it would have been more complicated for me to put the short row shaping to get the high-low effect in the neck and the back in the patterning. So to avoid overcomplicating the situation, I put it in the actual ribbing section, which works out really well. I've changed it slightly from how it is here and in the hem, so it works a little bit better than it does here, but even this is works fine. This is the 6 to 12 month size, and I was waiting for the yarn to arrive to cast on the final version. And again, I made a couple more modifications on this for the sleeves mostly after doing this version. And so now the yarn has arrived, and I'll show you that in a bit, but I'll be ready to cast on my main version and get knitting along with my test knitters. So this pattern is out to testing at the moment. There have been a few tweaks and stuff along the way. It's definitely a lesson in why you get patterns test knit. And yeah, so the reason why it's called Mix and Match is because the pattern is written in sections. So you'll have the neckband, you'll have an option for doing this high neckband or just a plain like even neckband, so there's no discernible right or wrong side, front or back. Then you have the main body of the sweater can either be done in stockinette or in the texture pattern. You can have short sleeves or long sleeves, and again long sleeves in stockinette or textured. And also for the hem, you can either have a regular straight hem, or there'll be an option for this high-low hem as well. So you could completely mix and match the different options to get your own unique sweater the way you want it. And of course you can also go for contrasting ribbing as well, if that is what you're into. So that's the sweater, and I had quite a bit of the yarn left over, so I knit a little hat to go with it. This is nothing special, nothing complicated. It is just a plain beanie. Again, the yarn held double, and it's funny how at this gauge with this number of stitches the yarn's striped. It's kind of got this like little striping effect going on, which I thought was quite cool, quite fun. I believe I cast on 72 stitches, and then after I finished the ribbing, I did how many ribbing? 8 rows of ribbing, and then I increased 8 stitches to 80 stitches, total 80 stitches in the hat. I knit until it was about 4.5–5 inches deep. Then I just did standard crown decreases for a hat, and this is the perfect size for Layla right now. So this is, I'd say this is like a 6 to 12 month size hat. yeah, it's nice and easy to go along with a sweater. Yeah. Then, let's see, the last thing I have finished is another design. This one isn't written up yet, I still need to write it up, but it's this adorable little sweater, this adorable little dress. And actually for the other sweater I have some footage of Layla wearing it, so I will try and remember to insert that here. Ooh. So yes, so the other design I have finished is this dress, which is beautiful, and the yarn I use for this is by Cindy of Mon Sheep Shop. She's the Mon Sheep Shop yarn store, online yarn shop. And this dress is inspired by a dress that one of my aunts knit for me when I was a baby, and that's this one, which I'm pretty sure I've shown before. I know it was on the vlog, definitely. There we go. It's this lovely sort of like corally pink colour, and it's really adorable. The thing is, the width of this dress is more of a 6-month size, yet the length is incredibly short for like a 6-month-old baby, in my opinion. I guess for leggings it'd be fine, but it sits sort of like halfway down where her nappy is, and it just looks like an awkward length. So I've actually had Layla wear this for her 4-week photo, so even though it was a bit big for her, she wore it then, and I really, really loved how it looked. And so I took inspiration from this. I'm pretty sure my aunt knit this out of acrylic, which is fine, and I'm pretty sure it was a slightly plumper yarn, and also it's probably a sport weight, and I'm pretty sure she had a tighter gauge than I used. So you can see there's quite a bit of a difference between the two finished objects. I did like change the stitch counts and stuff based on what this one was, to sort of fit the gauge I was going for, but even so I included, so the back of the dress has sort of like this opening where you tie it up together with this braid of yarn. And what my aunt had done is on all the edges she's put you can see it better on the bottom, there's like a crocheted shell stitch, I believe that was scalloped edge that she did on all the edges. So she's done it on the hem, on the cuffs of the sleeve caps, and around the top, and the bit around the top is where she's put this braid of yarn through and used it kind of like the holes around the crochet to thread the braid through to create like a closing at the back. I didn't want to do that. I did do that initially. I didn't want to have crochet in this because I figured it might be a little bit too complicated, because some people don't crochet, some people do. I will put in the pattern that you can do like a crochet, like shell stitch or scalloped edge around all the edges if that is what you want to do. I'm not very experienced with crochet, so I wouldn't know how to write those instructions. I'm pretty sure it wouldn't be too complicated, but I don't really want to delve down that route. I will put that in the pattern notes though, if anyone does want to do that. But I found this alternative stitch that looks very similar, or it doesn't look similar at all actually. It gives a very similar effect, I guess, of having, I can't even see it properly. Okay, you can't see it, but it has like a similar sort of lacy effect. It gives like little holes along the bottom, but it's based in stockinette, which it doesn't curl so much once it's been blocked, but it does flare a little bit. As you can see here on the sleeves kind of, I'm not sure how well you can see that, but they flare a little bit. So what I should have done on the sleeves was, once I picked up the stitches, decrease a few stitches out to avoid the flaring. And I'd done it on the neckband and it was like crazy flaring, and because it was stockinette based, I'm pretty sure that it was just going to sort of like roll over because it needs to go upwards. So I took it out and I didn't put anything on the neckband, and I actually quite like the clean sort of edge of the neck, but I wanted to keep that sort of keyhole feature at the back of the dress. So I just popped I put a buttonhole in as a precautionary measure, just in case I didn't like the edging at the end, so it would still have a closure. And I've done that. But when Layla, and this, like I said, this was supposed to be a 6 to 12 month size, and the width around the chest bit here is perfect. It's a perfect fit for her. But the opening is far too big. As you can see here, the opening is almost as wide here as around her chest, which makes this a very wide sort of boat neck on Layla, and when I'm holding her and she's wearing it, it always ends up like off the shoulder almost. So when I had to make some modifications to the neckline a little bit, I think this size of neckline would work much better for like the 1 to 2 year size, for the next size up. And I also feel like the neckline is so open, having the opening and a button is a little bit superfluous in this situation. You don't really need it. So I'm going to take that out and just have this all be closed and knit in the round, because it just seems a little bit of a unnecessary extra step that you don't need to have when you have such an open neckline in the first place. And yeah, I really like how this is knit up. The skirt portion turned out really beautifully, and I like the sort of subtle flaring that you get at the very end with the shaping of how that works. It's quite funny to see with this yarn knit up. It's this lovely speckled yarn. I think the colorway was called Dinah with Paul, Dinah with Paul, which is, I believe, a Gilmore Girls reference. And it's funny to see how the stitch count, when the stitch count changes here, the colours all sort of stack up, so you get a bit of pooling in this area, and then as the stitch count changes again, it goes back to speckling throughout a little bit more evenly. So that's that one. I knit this entirely on 3.5mm needles, so that's that. So, and I actually finished this on Friday, but it took me a couple of days to get around to finishing off the edges and blocking it. So yeah, I actually posted a picture to my Instagram this morning of Layla wearing this, so you can always check that out there if you wanted to. And again, I'm waiting for the yarn to arrive for the final version of this one. So in the meantime, I'm gonna try and get the pattern written up before the yarn gets here, so I can get working on grading it and stuff and getting it tech edited and then sent out to testers and stuff like that. So it's still a ways off. I'm hoping to have this released, optimistically I'd say October, realistically probably more like November because I still have to knit up the second version myself. So it probably will be looking at around November time before I get this pattern released. It just depends on a few factors. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. I'm not sure how I'm going to grade it, how large I'm going to grade the pattern to, like in terms of sizes, but I would like to get this graded up to like a young child, maybe 5-6 years old maximum, because otherwise I think it would end up using quite a lot of yardage if you want to make this as a dress. I've had a few requests from people to make an adult version of this as more of like I guess like a tunic top. I figure it would work out as, especially with like the A-line feature might look quite flattering. So I'll have a think about how that might work, although that probably won't happen until the new year, just because I have too many other things on the plate right now. But it's interesting to know that you guys would be interested, so I will definitely give that some consideration. So there's that one. And that's it for finished objects. That was quite a chatty little segment right there. So let's move on to works in progress. So first up, I have 2 scrappy blankets on the needles right now. I have the pinwheel scrap blanket and my granny stripe blanket. Neither of those have seen much progress, so I'm not going to bother showing them to you now. I'll probably show the granny stripe blanket on the next vlog that I do, if I get it out to work on it. But yeah, so moving on to the works in progress I do have to show you. The first one is a pair of vanilla socks that I was knitting using the Maker's Cuff pattern, which is a pattern that is by Amber Crawley, who is the dyer behind Maker's Haven Yarn and has the Maker's Haven podcast. Sorry, getting my words all jumbled up. And she was looking for test knitters for this pattern, and it was just for the cuff of a pair of socks. She said you didn't have to finish the socks, so I volunteered to test them for her. She dyed some beautiful yarn for me, so I'll show you that in a bit. So I thought I would pay the favour and try this out. And yeah, and the really beautiful sort of lacy cuff. Oh, come on, there we go. It's a really beautiful lacy cuff. It's very simple to work, it's not complicated at all, very intuitive. It's just a 2-row repeat, and yeah, it gives a really sort of nice fun effect. And I knit this out of Narwhal Needleworks and this is on their Ravenwood base. It's a fingering weight tweed, 85% superwash merino, 15% nylon, and it's their Lil Narwhal in the Big City colorway. This was their special colorway for Vogue Knitting Live this year, or January just gone. That's what it looks like in the cake. And yeah, I just wanted to make some special socks for myself out of this. So when Amber said she needed test knitters, I volunteered, as I already had the yarn caked up ready to go. She's crying in her sleep. She does that sometimes now. She's sleeping and then suddenly she just cries out. She's fine. It's Layla. I'm just keeping an eye on her on the monitor. So that's actually been knit out of high sharps on 2.25mm needles, US size 1s. And yeah, so those have been on hold for now. I've got another pair of vanilla socks on the needles right now, and I've got too many other things I need to work on. So once the other pair of socks, which I'll show you now, are finished, I'll probably pick up these ones and have those as my vanilla sock knitting. So this is the pair of socks I'm currently working on. So pair of socks number 2. Okay, she's fine now. This is going to be a pair of gift socks. I'm not sure who for yet, but it'll be for a guy, so I'll knit them a bit longer on the foot. And these are being knit on US size 1s as well, 2.25mm needles. And it's just my own sort of vanilla pattern, which you can get on Ravelry. I have a free version and a paid version. The paid version has my German short row heel and mini heel flap and gusset pattern in it as well. So this is what they look like currently. And I had originally thought that the striping was going to work out in the same order, but they're going in opposite orders, which is fine. I actually think that looks quite nice as well. I do this on purpose sometimes with socks if I don't want to have to worry about matching the stripes. I did a garter heel and I did do a mini heel flap adjustment on it. The only thing that bothers me, she's fine, she's still asleep. I don't know if you can hear her crying or not, but it's all in her sleep. See on this one, it just started transitioning into the next colour when I got a knot in the ball, and then it went back to the colour that it was before for the heel. Really annoying, but I'm actually now back at the green that it should have continued with here. So it actually means the front of this sock is going to continue in the correct colour sequence, while this one, the second sock, is a little bit disrupted. Okay, I might have to go check on her and see if she's okay. She seems fine on the camera. That's a lot of crying for someone who's asleep. Right, so that's the second pair of socks. I'll quickly show you the yarn ball. It's Elise wool. It's a Turkish brand. There's no colorway number or anything on it. Oh wait, hang on. There is a color. Color 3252. If you're interested, it's 100 grams, 420 meters. So that's my current pair of vanilla socks. I've just finished tying the heel, and so I've just got to do a few gusset decreases, and then it's just straight down the foot. I'll be right back. She's gone back to sleep now. Why is it always the days that I want to record are the days that she doesn't want to sleep, but the days that I don't record, she's like, she sleeps fine. No issues. It's like she knows. Okay, so moving on, I have one final work in progress to show you, and I'm really excited about this one. It's actually almost finished, so you almost never saw this. Actually, you didn't actually see any of the photos that I had this week before on the podcast, other than the socks. But this one you haven't even seen on Instagram. If you follow me on Instagram, I haven't shared this one, only because my sister-in-law also follows me on Instagram, and this is a gift for her baby. So I didn't want her to see it. This one's a surprise. I talked about making a mobile out of pom-poms for her in the vlog, and she had a bit of input on what colours she wanted for that one, because it's decoration for the baby's room, and I've kind of, I know I would have wanted that kind of input, so on something like that, so I asked her. But this is just a surprise for the baby, and for her basically. I'm making the baby a baby blanket. So this is a little, just a chevron baby blanket out of Knit Picks Stroll fingering in the tweed colours. As you can see there, it's nice and tweedy. And it turns out she's having a boy. They had they had a scan last week I think it was, and they found out they're having a boy. It's just so exciting. I'd already gone through and like put aside all of Layla's things that she's outgrown for her and her baby. I literally have a suitcase just of stuff to take back from my sister-in-law, but I had a small bag of things that are very gender specific, so I was like, this is the if it's a girl bag of stuff. So now I have to figure out what to do with that bag of stuff. But a lot of Layla's things, especially up to 3 months, most of it was very gender neutral. She's definitely got a lot more like gender specific stuff in terms of like dresses and floral stuff, and some pink things as well, obviously. So those would not be suitable, I don't think. I don't think my sister-in-law would want those for her boy. But yeah, so I have like a suitcase full of stuff for her already, but I want to give her some new things as well for the baby, especially things that I've made specifically for her child. So this is where I'm at. I'm ready to attach the final color, and you may recognize this pattern or type of pattern anyway. I knit a blanket pretty much exactly like this for Layla when I was pregnant. Actually, it was the very first thing I ever knit for her. I knit it when I had incredibly terrible morning sickness. It was like I had 1 week of really bad morning sickness, and that's when I knit this blanket for Layla. And I knit it out of Knit Picks Comfy Fingering, held double as well, and I used 6 colors. And based on how that turned out, I made a couple of modifications. I added 10 more stitches, actually 12 more stitches to the stitch count of this, and I'm only going to use 5 colors in this blanket, but I've done extra rows, so overall it will come out the same length in terms of row numbers, but it's going to be a little bit wider. And so right now when I hold it up against the blanket, it's lining up pretty perfectly, and width wise it looks about the same width, but that's just, this hasn't been washed yet, so I think with washing and blocking it will stretch out a bit more. So yeah, I'm really excited. I was originally going to do a crochet blanket like I did the rainbow one for Layla, but I only had 6 colors of this stroll tweed, and so I only had what would have been the equivalent of 6 100 grams balls, so 2 50-gram balls of each color. But that blanket took 7 skeins of yarn, and crochet eats up a lot more yarn than knitting does, so I thought it would be safer to go with a knit blanket option. Plus the sort of gradient, or the pack I guess, came, it was a Tweed Christmas pack, came with 6 colors, but 3 of them were green, 2 were red, and 1 was like this sort of creamy white color, and I thought it would be a bit odd or a bit unbalanced to have 3 greens and 2 reds, so that's why I decided to use 5 colors. And so I'll run through the colors really quickly. This is Garnet Heather, this one is Firecracker Heather, this one, I can't remember now what it's called, what was it? Oyster Heather, there we go, Oyster Heather. This one is Forest Heather, yeah, Forest Heather. And the last color is going to be this one, the darker green, is Sequoia Heather. So, just throwing balls everywhere. That's going to be the last colour to go on. But this pretty much, I started this on Saturday, so this is what I knit, I basically knit 1 colour a day, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and this one actually mostly knit on Tuesday and a little bit yesterday. Yesterday was a very busy day, I didn't get much knitting done, so I finished this stripe off yesterday. And so today, and probably tomorrow, between today and tomorrow, will be the last colour, and this will be finished. It's a 1-week blanket. This is such an easy blanket to knit. There isn't a pattern, I'm not following a particular pattern. What I might do actually, once this is finished, is I might just write up the pattern as a free upload on Ravelry for anyone who's interested in making a lovely baby blanket. And the best thing about it is it's totally adaptable to how much yarn you have. You can cast on more stitches, less stitches, make it longer, shorter, however much you want. I'll just put the basic instructions, and you can obviously modify however you wish. And like I said, it will be a free pattern, so there won't be a whole ton of detail, but there'll be enough information in there for you to be able to make your own version if you're interested. I'm not sure when I'll get that pattern out though. I need to find time to write one up, but that's the general gist. Let me know if you guys would be interested, or maybe I'll just, you know what, actually, to save me some time, I'm probably just gonna put up a thread in the group with just the rough details of how this is done. That'll probably be quicker. I'll be able to do that quicker, I guess. So actually, I guess I should explain. The last colour that came with the set was 2 skeins of this Lost Lake Heather colour. So I have 2 full skeins of this left, 2 balls. So what I'm planning on doing is making a little nugget sweater for the baby out of this colour. And then there's gonna be plenty of yarn left over out of the 5 colours that I'm using for the blanket. Together I could probably make another sweater for the baby, so I might do like a stripy version and then a solid version as well. So Bub's gonna have two new jumpers. I might do one as the mix and match sweater and one as the little nugget sweater, so he'll have 2 little ones to pick from. And what else? I think that's it for works in progress. Like I said, I've been waiting on some yarn to come in to start my final version of the mix and match sweater, so I'm going to show you that now. Okay, so I've had a few things come in the mail since I last spoke to you. I was contacted by the lovely people from Blacker Yarns about reviewing and testing out their latest yarn release. This is their birthday yarn for this year, and it's called Brushwork. I've just put one of the tags they sent around the little sample ball they sent me. So this is just a little sample skein, it's not the full size skein. It's a sport weight yarn, and it is made out of 80% pure new wool and 20% alpaca. It's 152 meters or 165 yards in a 50 gram ball, and this is a full ball. So they've sent me 4 skeins of this colour to use for a giveaway, which I'm still thinking of how I'm going to do that. I think it might be an Instagram giveaway because rather surprisingly I've just hit 14,000 subscribers on Instagram, which is just mind-blowing. So I think this may have to be some sort of Instagram giveaway for you guys, but I haven't figured out the details yet, so stay tuned. But they sent me a little one to play with, so I'm planning on swatching with this and just having a little play around and see how it works. So right now, unwashed, it's definitely a little bit more rustic, but it's super soft. So it's a soft rustic feel, I guess. I guess the rustic aspect of it is coming from the alpaca, but it is really lovely. It's super bouncy and really, really squishy. Lovely to work with. And so this is going to be their limited edition birthday yarn for this year, and I believe it's coming out on their website in September, towards the end of September. So there's that one. And they also kindly sent me a few other samples to play with. So they sent me a sample of their Samite 3-ply, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is a silk blend. Yes, and they've also sent me colour cards for all the different yarns they sent me. So this is the Samite silk blend. It is 20% silk and 80% pure new wool. And these are the different colours it comes in. Beautiful range of colours. It'll focus on the card and not me, that'd be great. And so the colourway they sent me is the, I think it's, yeah, it's that one, is Aspen's Shiver, which is just a natural colour, it seems. Some really beautiful shades in this one. Then you've got these are all the different colours that the brushwork comes in. And they're all named after painting techniques, which is really fun. So there's information on the back here. Says, for a very special birthday yarn this year, they've created a blend that's truly one of a kind, combining fine and rare British fibres with a painterly inspiration. So that's the other thing, all the different colourway names are named after painting techniques, and their labels for this yarn are all designed using sort of like inks and paints, and coming up with fun, interesting patterns and colours for the different yarns. Let's see what the content is in here. So they've got Scottish Beaumont, which is a very special sheep, and their fibre is renowned for its superb fine quality. They're developed by crossing Saxon Merino with Shetland. So interesting combination there, to make a merino style sheep which could live comfortably in the UK's damper climate. That's clever. And the majority of Scottish Beaumont fibre goes into luxury garment manufacturing, so they were thrilled when they were able to purchase some for Blacker Yarns. And they've chosen to blend it with 10% Castle Milk Moritz, a breed listed as at risk, and there's apparently only around 1,000 of the sheep left in the UK. And that sheep produces a plump and bouncy sort of brown fleece, I believe Morit is the sort of the refers to that brown colour. I might be wrong. Don't ask me. I might be getting that completely wrong. And to add a little bit more drape to the yarn, finished yarn, they've added 20% alpaca as well, British alpaca. So it's a very British blend of yarn, which Blacker are very known for doing. All their yarns are all like blends of British wools. And sorry, my words all muddled up, but they've also sent me a couple of others to play with, as well as the Samite and the brushwork. They also sent a ball of their black and mohair blends. Beautiful. And this is in the Blizzland colourway. Yeah, Blizzland colourway, the third from the top. It's a lovely sort of like mauvey pink colour, which is beautiful. And this has, let's see, what does it say in here? They've chosen this Hebridean and Manx wool blended with silky white mohair. And I love how all of their yarns, at least these three, the brushwork, the mohair and the Samite, all have a lovely sort of heathery feel to it. The brushwork has a very sort of tweedy effect as well as being heathered. It's very tweedy, which is beautiful. And the final yarn they sent me to play with is their Blueface Leicester lace yarn, which is really delicate and beautiful. That'll focus. And I believe they sent me the Manatee colourway. Yeah, Manatee. And these are the colours that comes in. Which is beautiful. So thank you so much to Blacker for sending me all of these colour cards. I look forward to playing around and picking out some colours, and also playing around with these lovely yarns that they sent. So stay tuned. I will try and endeavour to have a review ready for you guys the next time I do a sit down episode. Otherwise you will probably see me swatching with these on the vlog, on my next vlog. So stay tuned for that. And like I said, I will be having a giveaway, most likely on Instagram, for these 4 balls of Blacker brushwork. Like I said, these are going to be limited edition, so these aren't going to be easy to get hold of once they've sold out. And I have 200 grams to give away to a lucky viewer in this beautiful, beautiful colour. This is their 12th birthday brushwork, woolen spun, impasto colourway. I forgot to mention that, it's their impasto colourway. And the yarn is actually dyed in the wool, so it's dyed as fibre before being spun into yarn. Okay, so that's the lovely, lovely package I got from Blacker. So again, thank you very much. And next up, I have some lovely yarn that came from Amber from Maker's Haven, who I spoke about earlier and I said I would mention again later. She sent me some lovely, lovely yarns to play with. When she saw that I was designing the mix and match sweater, she offered to provide yarn support for it for the final version, which I gladly accepted, and because I love Amber's yarn, I just never had an opportunity to work with it yet. And she dyed this beautiful, these 2 skeins of gorgeousness, and it's a one-of-a-kind colourway which she's named Layla, which I love. And I took a picture of Layla with it after it got here. Layla's now 6 months old. I can't believe that. I was taking her 6-month photos the other day, and I handed her these 2 skeins of yarn, and she clutched onto them so hard. It was like, they're mine, they're mine. And then she started like licking one of them. So they've been Layla taste tested and approved, and she had quite a death grip on them. Trying to get them off her was a challenge, but I'm really, really looking forward to getting these on the needles very soon. I love how she's dyed them. There's going to be a really sort of fun sort of spiraling effect, I guess, with the yarn on certain parts of the sweater, so it'll be really fun to see how this knits up as well. So this is a DK yarn, if I didn't mention. The mix and match child sweater is actually designed for DK and worsted. All you need to do essentially is get the right gauge with whatever needle size you need to get that gauge. In the pattern that will explain all of that as well. So really, really excited. I love working with heavier weight yarns now. When we lived in the Middle East, I pretty much exclusively knit with fingering weight yarn because it just suited the climate so much more, and also just wasn't as conducive to knit with heavier weight yarns in such a hot place either. But now that we're here, like, I absolutely love knitting with the heavier yarns. It's so satisfying. Amber also sent me, I'm going to show you these, some, which I love what she calls them. She calls these knitting jewellery. It's this lovely stitch markers and a progress keeper that she's made. I can get them to dangle properly. Oh, come on, there we go. And they're so beautiful. And she like just puts beads together onto like stitch markers, and there's a lovely progress keeper here. She refers to them as knitting jewellery because of course you're knitting these jewellery. Why not? But she also included a skein of sock yarn. Now, I don't know, Amber must have read my mind or something, because I meant to ask her if she wanted to provide yarn support for one of the patterns for the sock club for next year, and I just forgot to ask her at the time. But it turns out she threw in a skein of sock yarn anyway, and it's going to be perfect for one of the designs I have in mind. So that was very fortunate. And she said of course it's fine to use it for that, and it's in the Midnight Talks colourway. It's on her simple sock, which is an 80/20 superwash merino nylon blend, 400 yards in 100 grams, and it's a lovely 2-ply. Amber and I both share a love of purple. The colour purple is something that we both absolutely adore, so she totally totally got my number, I guess, with these. And I also really love teal, and teal and purple together are a really beautiful combo. Not like a super high contrast combo, but a very lovely complementing combo, I believe. I feel like they go really nicely together. At least this sort of shade of purple and teal go really well together. So thank you so much to Amber for those. And finally, I have another giveaway prize to announce and show you guys today. And so this is a sock kit put together between Gabby of Once Upon a Corgi, Becky from the Stringing It Together podcast, and Hannah from the Corner of Craft, or the Crafty Chat podcast, and the Corner of Craft on Etsy. So they've come together to create a sock kit. Gabby dyed the yarn, Becky designed the pattern, and Hannah created the progress keeper for the kit. So it's the Volker sock kit. I've got this written down now. There's the Volker sock kit. So you get the Volker sock pattern, which has been designed by Becky Sorensen, who is Soprano Knits on Instagram and Ravelry, and she has the Stringing It Together podcast. And the yarn is dyed by Gabby, who has the Once Upon a Corgi podcast and Etsy shop. And the stitch marker is by Hannah, who has the Crafty Chat podcast and the Corner of Craft Etsy shop. And you have two different options, I believe, for the kits in terms of colours and bases. So this is on her Isaac base, which is 100% superwash Polworth, which is so lovely and squishy. And this is the main skein. You get one full skein, and this one is in Hedwig. And then you get a coordinating 25-gram mini skein. This one is in Dark Like My Soul. And depending on what colour your mini skein is, I think there's two options. And you get two options of bases, and I can't remember what the other base option is. But this one, I can tell you, feels very squishy and lovely. Depending on the colour of your mini will depend which colour progress keeper you get. So this one is the more stormy grey coloured cloud. And I think there's another one which is the more white cloud. A lighter cloud rather. So that's a kit, and the kits are going to go on sale on the 1st of September, so that's next Friday at 10 AM Eastern time in Gabby's Etsy shop. And the kits will all be shipped from the US. And with your order you get a code, sorry, deep breath. With your order you get a code so you can download the pattern on Ravelry as well. And the pattern itself will also be released on the 1st of September, so if you just want the pattern, then that's also will be available. I will be using this kit as a prize on the podcast. I will be using it for the August New York Sock Club prize draw. It seems rather fitting to give away a sock kit for a sock knit along, so I thought that was the most appropriate use for it. So stay tuned. I will be drawing prizes actually for the August month sock knit along in the vlog, I guess, in the vlog video that I put up next. I will have the prize winners announced in that one. So yeah, I won't be drawing that until August is finished. And obviously with the kit you'll also get a copy of the pattern as well. Trying to think. I think that's all I had to say about those. So thank you so much to everyone who has sent me yarn to test out, to review, to knit a design with, and to give away. I really appreciate it. It's always fun. And if you ever want to donate a prize to the podcast for one of our knit alongs that we have going on either this year or for next year for the sock knit along, I'm more than happy to discuss with you and to talk to you about it and discuss the options of how we can get that to work. So just drop me a line either on Ravelry or via email. Instagram is a little bit hit and miss for me, to be honest. I would prefer, especially if you're contacting me about pattern support, I would prefer if you use the email or Ravelry messages to contact me. You're more likely to get a timely response out of me. But for anything else, I mean, that is generally the best way to get in touch with me about anything to do with the podcast. But it's difficult for me to use Instagram for pattern support. It's just the format is not particularly great for that. But for general things, it's not too bad. So as I mentioned, we have a couple of knit alongs going on at the moment. We have the New York Sock Club, which is ongoing at the moment. This next month, September, is going to be the final month for the club, so I'm so excited. I really love this next pattern that's coming out. It's one of my favorites. It's probably going to be a go-to for me when it comes to self-striping sock yarn. It's a perfect one for self-striping sock yarn or any kind of sock yarn. I think this one works well on pretty much anything. So it's so simple. I just can't wait for you guys to see it and get knitting. And I was really hoping to get a pair of Rhinebeck socks knit using this design, knitting along with you guys, but generally I think I have a lot on my plate over the next couple of months design wise. I really don't think it's going to be wise for me to cast on a pair of pattern socks. I think the only socks I can have on the needles right now are going to be vanilla socks or designs for this next sock club coming up next year. So unfortunately I might not be able to knit along with you guys on this one. But we also have the Knitting Expat Designs year-long Cal, which is ongoing. I will be drawing prizes. The next set of prizes I'll be drawing will be at the end of September for that one. So make sure you enter so make sure you have included your entries in the prize thread for that one as well. Okay, moving on from that, we do have quite a few questions in the Q&A thread that I haven't answered yet. I haven't answered any questions in the last couple of podcasts, but I think this episode's gonna be pretty long as it is. So I'm gonna leave that and answer those questions on the vlog. I think one day when there's a bit of quiet time and I've got some time to just sit down, I'll sit down and knit and chat with you guys and go over and answer some of those questions that you have in that thread. So if you do have any questions for me, feel free to pop over to that thread. I will answer pretty much most things within reason, obviously. So yeah, make sure you pop in there and let me know if you have anything you want to ask. So I am back now with a weekend review. So like I mentioned, Layla is now 6 months old. She's 26 weeks old. I cannot believe that. I remember when she was first born, I couldn't even fathom having a 6-month-old. I couldn't imagine what that would be like, and right now I'm just like, I can't believe I'm already here. Like, no idea. It's just going by way too quickly. It's funny because the days feel like they go on forever, but then the time just seems to fly at the same time. Like, I just don't understand how this works. It's generally just mind-blowing. She's amazing though. She's so amazing. She's really coming into her own. She really has this amazing little personality now, and she's eating like a trooper. She's doing really well with food now. She's on 3 meals a day. We just introduced breakfast this week, so she has breakfast, lunch and dinner now, and yeah, she's doing really good. She's sleeping through the night again, which is great. I think having food now is really helping with that. And I say she's sleeping through the night, she is, but she's waking up really early, around 5:30. Sometimes she'll go back to sleep and sleep until like 6:37. Sorry, sleep through to like 7 or 7:30. But this morning, for example, she woke up, fell asleep again after half an hour, rolling around and just chatting to herself. And yeah, so she woke up at 5:30, rolled around for a bit, talked to herself, like just chattering away, squealing and laughing and just having a good old time in her crib. And then fell asleep around 6:05, and then not even 5 minutes later she sneezed and woke herself up again. So that started our day nice and early. It was quite funny because by the time I realised no, she's not going to fall back asleep again, Perry had left for work. So I texted him and I was like, oh, she's woken up again. He was like, okay, I have a couple of minutes, I'll come back and get a cuddle and then I'll go. So I think he was waiting for his co-worker to pick him up. They carpool to the office, to work rather. So so he quickly came back up and gave her a little cuddle. So yeah, anyway, other than that, it's not going too badly. She absolutely loves anything orange. Okay, I got cut off there because my camera ran out of space, so I had to delete a couple of things. But I think I was saying, yogurt is now back in rotation. She loves it and it's not giving her tummy aches anymore, which is good. It's quite funny. She absolutely loves her yogurt now. But yeah, this last month, her 6th month on this planet was a rough one for Layla. She cut 2 teeth. She now has 2 teeth and 2 little tiny baby teeth. It's so adorable. And she's rolling over back and forth all over the place. She's trying to sit up now, so I really see when she's laying down she tries to sit up, and when I prop her up she's okay. She can't quite sit on her own yet. She loves her bouncer. It was so funny the other day, she fell asleep bouncing in it and then was just like sleeping. It was so funny. I did pick her up in the end, but there was like no waking her up at one point. It was quite adorable and really funny. And again this morning she almost fell asleep in it again. But she went through a ton of developmental changes this last month, but she's come through it all. She's doing well, and she's back to sleeping better as well, which is great. Last weekend, some friends came around, some knitting friends who I've mentioned before loads of times. They came over, hung out for the afternoon and day and afternoon, played with Layla, knit some things, and just generally had a good little hangout, which was fun. And tomorrow, actually, the reason why I'm not able to record on Friday this week is my old manager. She was actually the very first manager or boss or whatever I had out of university in my first job. She was my first little line manager person that I reported to, I worked for, and she's going to be in New York this weekend for the US Open, I believe it is, the tennis. And we stayed in touch after I left that job. I left that job when we moved to Dubai. Well, because we were moving to Dubai, and we stayed in touch after. We were friends on Facebook and we just keep in touch every now and again. Actually, she came out to Dubai once and I met up with her there, and now she's coming here and I'm going to see her here as well, which would be really, really fun. I haven't seen her in a few years. And for those of you who don't know, I used to work in the construction industry, which is a incredibly male dominated world to be in. I wasn't actually physically working on site. I dealt with the financial side of construction, and she was an incredible first sort of a very strong female role model to have in that sort of world. And I learned a lot from her. I learned a lot of things about sort of how to handle myself, I guess, in a very male dominated industry. There's a lot of casual sexism involved when you are one of very few women in a very, like I said, male dominated world, and lots of things. So I learned a lot from her, and it was a lot of things that have still stuck with me now as well. So I was incredibly lucky to have someone like her as a role model, as a mentor, as it were, in those early days. So and I really appreciate everything she did for me. She gave me a lot of opportunities that I may have not gotten in other places. So so yeah, and it set me up really well for everything I did after that. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to catching up with her for lunch tomorrow, and for her to get to meet Layla as well, which would be really good. And as I mentioned, next week, Thursday, is actually Perry's birthday. He's end of August, and but because next weekend is the Labor Day weekend, it's a long weekend here, lots of people have plans and stuff like that, so we decided to do brunch with his friends this weekend. So on Saturday we're going to be going for brunch somewhere nearby here with his friends coming over and stuff, so that should be really good fun. I haven't seen a lot of them in a while, and a lot of them haven't even met Layla yet. It just hadn't worked out timing wise, so that'll be nice. And then, as I said, next weekend is Labor Day weekend. We don't have any plans as yet, but we're thinking about trying to go away for the weekend, probably just for 2 out of the 3 days, just an overnight trip. So we just sort of somewhere close by, nothing more than a couple of hours drive, I don't think. So we'll see, we haven't decided. Hopefully decide in the next couple of days so we can book something if we do decide to go, or we may just end up staying in the city and doing a few things around here, not sure yet. couple of other things. What else? So my parents are coming out. That'll be really, really fun. My parents are coming out in September for a couple of weeks. They are planning, it's my mum's 60th birthday this year, so they're planning a bit of a trip. They're going to LA first, and then they're going to go to Vegas, and then they're going to go to Boston, and then they're going to come to New York. I've mentioned before that I have family spread out all over the US, so this kind of explains a little bit why they're going to so many places, and that doesn't even cover where all of my family are. But my mum hasn't been to LA in a long time, and that's where the majority of the people and family members that we have in the US live, so it'll be nice for her to go and see them there. And then Perry, Layla and myself are going to go meet my mum and dad, and a couple of other people I believe are going to be joining from LA in Vegas for a few days. So that should be fun. It's going to be a very interesting experience flying with Layla, because it'll be the first time we're taking a plane with her, and the flight actually from New York to LA to Vegas, not LA, to Vegas, is about 5.5 hours, which is pretty much how long it takes to fly to London from New York. So it's going to be a good sort of test drive to see how she's going to be on the plane for that amount of time for later in the year when we go back for Christmas. So it'll be interesting to see how that turns out. I'm sure she'll be fine. I'm sure she will. But yeah, anyway. Then, like I said, then my parents are going to go to Boston for a couple of days, and we're just going to come back to New York, and they're going to come down to New York after Boston and stay with us for another week or so. So yeah, it's nice to finally have that planned. My dad got his visa a couple of weeks ago, and we've sort of been bouncing back and forth with dates and trying to figure out when will work for everybody and all that sort of stuff. So I'm glad we finally got that all sorted. I think the only thing left to organise for that entire trip is where we're staying in Vegas. I think that's the only thing we haven't figured out yet. And I think the plan is also to do a trip out to the Grand Canyon, which would be really fun. I've never been to the Grand Canyon. I have been to Vegas before, but I was 16, so that's almost 15 years ago now. So yeah, so it'd be really fun to go and do that. And I'm trying to think what else. This will be the first time my dad has been to the US since, I think it was 94. It was the last time he was in the US, and he only went to LA that time. So it's been a while for him. And I just heard, actually, during one of like the little filming breaks I've taken throughout the recording today, that Perry's parents are going to be coming out in October for a week, which will be really, really fun as well. I'm so glad that they were able to wrangle another trip out before we leave, especially since Perry's dad hasn't met Layla yet either. Neither of our dads have met Layla yet, so this will be really exciting for them as well. So I'm really glad they've been able to work that out and work that into their schedule as well to make it work. How many times can I say make it work in a sentence? Too many, apparently. And yeah, I think that pretty much wraps up all the news I have for you guys. Like I said, we're gonna have a very busy couple of months, and then after, so this is why I mentioned at the beginning that there's probably gonna be more vlogs in the next couple of months, because as you can see, there's a lot happening. We've got my parents coming out for a couple of weeks, then I've got Perry's parents coming out for a week, and then we're going to Rhinebeck. So there's a lot of things happening in a relatively short amount of time. So I'm going to do my best to get some sit-down episodes in, but I can't guarantee it. And if I don't, then there will be vlogs. So hopefully that will tide you over in the meantime. To those of you who don't enjoy the vlog format, I'm really sorry if that's not your cup of tea. That's absolutely fine. You know, not everyone is going to be happy with everything. So all I would say is, you know, if you don't like it, don't watch it. And yeah, that's all I have to say. Stay tuned. If there are any other clips and stuff that I wanted to share with you guys, I'll put those in at the end here. And I just want to say thank you so much for joining me today. If you've been sticking with me for all this time, I really, really appreciate it. I feel like this has been a very long and rambly podcast, so I hope it hasn't felt too long to you guys. All right, take care, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye. Layla. Baba.